The Johnson Viking Ranger is being tested. Here are some preliminary results. Under the standby conditions, the high voltage is 616 volts, and the screen voltages on the final and on the modulator tubes is 0. And the modulator bias is sitting at minus 34.5, and the final amplifier is drawing 20 milliamps, and you can see that right there. It's in the standby position. That's the clamper tube. The 6AQ5 is keeping the current down. Now we'll go into the CW mode. And I'll press the key down, and we've got 150 milliamps plate current. The grid current is 2.5 milliamps, and the RF output power is just a shade over 55 watts. And this is the RMS voltage on a crystal detector. It's not as very accurate, but it's used as a relative reading. And we get 49, almost 50 volts RMS into 50 ohms. This one reads a little low because of the diode drops. It's not quite calibrated. But the bird meter is calibrated. I checked it with different elements. We get exactly the same power no matter what ranges we use. So under these conditions, CW, there's 564 volts on the 6146 plate voltage. Screen voltage is 212. Grid bias is minus 80. Plate current 150, and grid current 2.5, as we already saw. And the modulator, of course, has the same plate voltage. There's still 0 voltage on the screen. The bias voltage has dropped a little bit to minus 30, and there's no current drain on the modulator. Okay, so that's the CW position. You can key that, of course. Now, we'll go to the phone position, and this completes the keying circuit, and we have 140 milliamps. There's a slight drop in the modulation transformer secondary winding, 140 milliamps, and the grid current is still 2.5 milliamps, and the power has dropped slightly to about 50 watts. And this shows 45 volts RMS, a little bit lower. And under these conditions, the final amplifier is sitting at 540 volts, 200 volts screen voltage, minus 76.5 grid voltage is what I measured, 140 milliamps, 2.5 milliamps grid. And the modulator tubes have 316 volts. That's that tapped resistor under the chassis, that big hot resistor. That's the screen grid voltage on the modulator tubes. Minus 29 volts grid bias, and 62 milliamps resting modulator idle current, which you can see right there. Now, if I pick up the mic, testing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Be careful not to overmodulate. Now, interestingly, the bird meter filters out modulation, and it only shows the carrier level. I don't know what kind of time constants are in there, but it doesn't show any change. However, if you look at my crystal detector, carrier level is 45. About 60 volts RMS. Now that's more than root 2 from the 45. So that's basically then 50% power increase which is what you would expect with sidebands plus carrier under 100% modulation conditions, sinusoidal. So the Viking Ranger is working very well. The next test will be to do a frequency response test of the audio system. But for now, the restored Viking Ranger is working beautifully. VE3 IKU out.